Okay, hopefully this should be the last part of the tutorial. I'm just going to go through some of the fun stuff for me, animation, walk cycles, run cycles, a few tricks for actually animating speech, and also a few tips and tricks that I can just show you that should make some of these steps a bit easier. To start out, suppose you wanted to trace a GIF animation or some sort of resource that you've found on the internet. What you could do is create a new symbol and go to import, file import, and then Flash will actually import each keyframe and it will be a separate bitmap image. So I found this random animated GIF and I've basically put that in this layer here, and I've got a new layer above that, and if I double click my layer I can actually choose an outline colour here. So when I hit this square button I can actually draw over this keyframe. So I could identify whenever the actual animation changes and then just insert a new keyframe. It takes time, but I don't think there's any shame in actually doing that. You can also use this with your own animations. If I remove these keyframes, and then start drawing in your first frame, and then when you get to your next keyframe, insert a blank keyframe where you want it to start, and then move your actual content to the layer above, and then you can make that transparent so you can see exactly where you want to draw your next lines. So now I'm just going to continue the process quickly. Generally speaking, in animation, if you can imagine how the body looks at the major points, then you can quite simply just figure out how it's going to change the position of the limbs and the separate body parts as it progresses through the actual motion. Easier said than done, but the more you experiment, the more you're going to learn, really. That's why I'm trying to keep this very basic, or at least that's my excuse for it looking so shit. this is just a simple 6-frame animation which is spread across 12 frames at 24 frames per second. So it's for a quick motion. You might have a character jumping on and off screen, or a car speeding past, something of that calibre. And then just to continue the impression of those objects moving off, I'm just going to have the last sort of trace of them here, and then a blank keyframe for when they're actually off screen. And hopefully this won't look awful now. So the character just lands down and then speeds off. So you could achieve your own effects quite easily just by tracing over your previous layer. Right, we've worked with importing sounds, etc., but I just want to show you a little trick that you can use for when you're doing speech. I've drawn this rough character here, and I'm going to overlay the mouth over his sort of chin area here, and I'm working with mouths from the side, but they're pretty much the same from the front. So here I've got a library of different images that I've converted to graphic symbols. So I'm going to be using these different mouth positions quite frequently, so it's good to have a library of them, because then I can copy and paste actual images, or I can copy and paste frames that I've done previously. So then I need to put my sound effect into the timeline, which I'm going to start at frame 2. And the character just says vengeance. Now you'll notice on the actual waveform here in this layer, there's a line whenever it's really quiet, and this indicates when the mouth is closed or when it's about to say the next syllable. So generally speaking, when the mouth is inactive, the teeth are either closed or the mouth is pursed with just a little line. So I consider these 3 mouths here kind of like my static mouths. So I'm going to go ahead and just insert this mouth here. Now I also use this mouth for when you're saying F, for instance, just before you say the U in fuck or something of that calibre. Also V sort of sounds as well. So that's his sort of starting position there. So now I've got that keyframe set up, I can delete the mouths once I've copied them. And then in the middle here, before it says the junts part, again it would be closed, so I'm going to insert a keyframe just there. But in this case I'm going to have the more toothy look. So I've just pasted those mouths from previously, and I'm just going to put that there. And then copying the remaining ones, I'll delete them from that keyframe. And then after he's finished saying everything, I'm going to have it moving from this position we've just had, so I've inserted a keyframe, to a position with no teeth showing. So if I delete that and paste my stuff back in, I'm just going to put the purse mouth there. Now this mouth here, it could also be used for when you're pronouncing a B or a P, or basically the start of those words such as bass or player or something of that calibre. It can also be used for expression. So I'm copying them again. So now I've got my static position set in. I just need to do the areas in between, so I can either listen to my timeline layer by layer to actually figure out the sounds. So here where it says ven, I basically need the mouth opening wide because it's saying an A, like an R or an E sort of sound. So that's basically when the mouth goes from a teethy look to the teeth opening and you seeing a bit of tongue or whatever. So I'm going to put in a blank keyframe there, paste my stuff back in, and for these sort of sounds I use these mouths. This is for the loudest sort of sound, and this is just when it's opening.